But we really look for, I would say, grit, gratitude, and humility. Those are really big ones for us. So grit, man, we want tough kids. We want kids that have been through adversity. They get back up. They get knocked down. They get backed up. Like, you need that for junior college. So we look for gritty, tough kids.
Recruiting Assist brought to you by Net Results Recruiting. My name is Matt Bright, Regional Director of Recruiting for Net Results in St. Louis, Missouri. Joining me as always, our founder and president, Steve Schafer from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. What's going on, Coacher?
Coach, how are you tonight?
I have better weather than you for once. It's 70 here, not a cloud in the sky, no humidity. I win for once.
Yeah, you do. You do. That's good. That's good. Well, we're in the thick of NBA playoffs. Even though I'm not a big NBA guy, I know that's, the kids love that stuff, and I'm sure they're watching closely. And we've got a live period coming up here on the guys' side this weekend. So a lot of stuff going on right now in the basketball world. So exciting time.
Yes, it is. And we have two special guests with us tonight from a world that often is mislabeled. People are misguided about it. They're here to break some stigmas and really educate our audience on what junior college basketball is all about.
Yes, a really exciting episode tonight. All things junior college basketball. With us tonight, we have Cory Hoff, the head men's basketball coach at South Mountain Community College. Just finished his first season there. He has extensive experience at the junior college level as well as other college levels. He was also a high school coach. Cory, we're fired up to have you on tonight. And we also have Mitch Rolls. Mitch is just finished his second season at Chipola Community College down in Marianna, Florida on the women's side. And Mitch has got extensive junior college experience across the country, played at the Division I level, played professionally. So he's going to give us great perspective from the girls' side and what's going on in junior college basketball, on the women's side. So guys, really, really happy that you're with us. Cory, we'll start with you. Want to give us a little bit of your background? And I know you've been kind of a lot of places, but you're back home in Arizona. And that's where I live. So love having you back in the state here, but give us, our audience, a little bit of your background.
Sure. Appreciate you guys having me on. Really looking forward to this. So my background, I got lucky. I got started at Mesa Community College as an assistant coach, working for a Hall of Fame coach. Just hit him up, wanted to volunteer, knew I wanted to get into coaching, just didn't know how to go about it. So really fortunate that he said yes. And so volunteered there. I coached there for 4 years. Loved my time there. Loved the guy that I worked for, but I wanted to experience the 4-year level. I wanted to see what that was about. I hated getting rid of kids after a year or two. We wanted to coach them for longer. And so had an opportunity to go out to a small NAI out in the Midwest, Graceland University. Great experience. Spent 2 years there as associate head coach. Won a national championship. Got really fortunate there. Took over as a head coach. Spent 3 years there as the head coach. And then, with the Midwest, I got sick of the snow, the cold weather. Wanted to get back closer to family here in Arizona. So decided to come back to Arizona and spend a year doing NBA skill development out here with a really good NBA player development coach, and realized I missed coaching. And so got back in, did a year Skyline High School, went out to New Mexico Military Institute, Division I junior college out there in Region 5, did that for 2 years. And then again, realized I miss home, and great opportunity here at South Mountain Community College, and spent this past year here.
That's all right. Great to have you back. You guys have done a heck of a job in year one, and excited to see what you guys do as you guys move forward. So welcome to the podcast. And and again, I know Cory was a good player, probably the best basketball player on the podcast tonight by a mile. Mitch has a great background, and Mitch, we're really fired up to have you on. You coming from a big time junior college, and you guys have done a heck of a job there. But you mind giving us your background from when you as a player, and kind of what brought you to Chipola?
Yeah, well, I was just a pass first point guard. I'm about 6 foot, 6'1". So, nobody's calling me a better player than anybody. But just, I was lucky enough to play at a high level, had good grades. So that got me into the Patriot League and playing at Colgate. So, they say academic goes a long way, and I'm glad my parents kept me in the book. So, that was my playing career. I did spend a little bit of time in the Czech Republic for 1 year, played a full season there, and then came back. We had the birth of my first child. So it was kind of like, hey, it's time to get into coaching. So I started there at Labette Community College 11 years ago. I stayed there for 8 or 9 years total. That first year, I think I probably had 17 days to recruit. So, that first year was kind of just like a crapshoot. You're going out there with probably 7, 8, sometimes 6 girls to get a game done. But we got it going. We had a good 9 years there where we were top 15 or top 10 every year, made the national tournament a few times. The problem was, we're playing against Johnson County, who just recently won a national championship. We had KCK, who had won 2 national championships in my first few years there. So, we didn't really make the national tournament. We had no at-large bids. So, we were always real competitive in the top 10 or competitive with those top 5 teams, but just really didn't make the tournament. We made it my last 2 years there. Spent 1 year at Iowa Western up there working for Shane Larson, which, Iowa Western's got it going in every sport. So, we had a great year there, won 33 games, had the National Player of the Year, which really helps you win games. So that was a great year. And that 1 year at Iowa Western got me here at Chipola. So, I'm, again, lucky to work for a great AD and Jeff Johnson, another, legend, if you want to call it, in junior college. Is going to be a Hall of Famer. So just really lucky in terms of who I've gotten to work for, and it's translated into wins. We've made the national tournament the last 2 years, and we're able to win a state title last year. And probably the inside the women's side for sure, probably the toughest conference in the country.
Well, we're excited to have you. So thanks for being with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Well, Mitch, we'll start with you. What have you seen change in the last, we'll say, since COVID, or maybe even right before COVID? What has changed with junior college basketball, and how has the portal affected all of that change over the last 5 to 7 years?
I think it's got a lot better on the women's side. I think obviously there's the Caitlin Clarks of the world that are really elevating the game. But I think the portal really helped. It gave us an opportunity to recruit those D1 level kids that maybe didn't play as freshmen. Some of these schools give up on. We were really lucky last year. We had 7 Division I transfers. So, without the portal, I don't think we ever have those types of numbers here. There's been other teams that I've watched throughout the years that have had a lot of Division I transfers, and it translates to winning. You get older. We're trying to do the same thing these Division Is are doing, is get older. And, I think that's helping not only our level, but, the Division I level as well.
Cory, same to you.
Yeah, I think it's the portal has shifted the priority in recruiting at the 4-year level. Everybody, like Coach said, everybody wants to get older. So they're recruiting the portal first, and then the JUCO kids, and then the prep and the high school. For the most part, you have special kids that it really doesn't matter. So for us, it's shifted our priority where we're getting kids 5-7 years ago we couldn't have gotten. They've already been signed at the D1 or D2 level. So it has allowed us to expand our pool where we're not just getting kids that are in a tough spot academically, or they're bouncing back because of whatever reason, playing time, they got in trouble. So it's really increased our pool and allowed us to go after kids that we weren't able to get 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that's really elevated the level of junior college basketball.
And I'm glad you said that, Cory, because we've had coaches from all levels on, and every level has gotten better since COVID.
Yes.
And it's just like we joke, Steve and I played Division III. I don't know if I can make a roster now. You know what I mean? Because they've just gotten so much better. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Matt wasn't very good. No, I'm kidding. Matt was a good player. So Cory, I want to say with you, like with the transfer portal, and obviously this now this 5-year rule that Division I will be passing soon, and I think it's going to trickle into all levels where every kid gets 5 years. Where does JUCO fit now in the overall recruiting landscape, and how is that going to affect high school kids moving forward?
I think,
and one more thing, like with the 5-year rule, like what is your pitch to a kid coming out of high school that maybe doesn't think junior college basketball is the right move anymore because you're going to exhaust a year, if that makes sense? So I'm throwing a lot at you here. Yeah.
Sure. I think for junior college, it's for kids that they want that on-floor game experience. They need that for their development. So maybe they're not ready to get onto the floor. Right now there's a lot of misinformation going around. I hear junior college coaches that are telling kids, come play JUCO because your years don't count. And that's not true. So there's a lot of misinformation going around. It's really sad to see. But I think maybe with this 5-and-5 plan, if it passes all of that stuff, it'll help shore some of that up. But for us, we're looking for tough kids that they're willing to work for something. Like JUCO, it's a different environment. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And so we want kids, and we're looking for kids that they want that on-floor experience to help prepare them for the next level. And I think that's what junior college can do, even with the 5-year rule passing.
Yeah. And it's with you, like, are you still recruiting a lot of high school kids? Are you going more? I know you took 7 Division I transfers last year. How is the new landscape, changed the way you're doing things?
Well, it made it easier to get those types of kids. Like Coach said, we're getting kids we're not supposed to get. But then on the backside, I feel like it's really elevated our kids and their recruiting to go Division I. So if they're, like Coach said, if they're able to get on the floor here and they do well, they're going to be able to leapfrog a little bit higher than where they started at. We had a couple kids do that this year. If they don't play well, they have a mediocre season, or like I tell my kids, we want to have good percentages. You want to be an efficient basketball player. You might not average 20, you might not average 15, but if you're playing at a high enough JUCO level and coaches are able to see you play that winning style of basketball, you just need the film. Like, we need the film to get it out there and send it to coaches. So, I think it's helped us on both ends, get better players and then get our kids to a higher level.
That's great. Yeah.
And Cory, you brought this up already about game experience. So are you seeing more high school kids come choose JUCO because it's forced upon them because of grades or whatever, or is it a necessity to get to that higher level?
I would say it's a combination of both. You're seeing some kids that they aren't being recruited to the level that they want to, and they understand they need that experience. And then there's some that everybody's trying to get older and they're just overlooked. So I think it's a combination of both. And like Coach said, it's allowed us to elevate this level, but also on the flip side, everyone wants to get older. So now junior college kids are a little bit more attractive when they miss out on the portal.
Mitch, same to you, as necessity or by choice for kids coming JUCO?
We don't get too many by choice kids here. It's usually by necessity. Like Coach said, they're not getting recruited. They already know they have the GPA, or they're not going to get the credits they need. So it's kind of, I tell everybody, I'm fine with being your backup plan. If you don't get the D1 you want, or you don't get the grades you want, like, I'm fine with sitting there and waiting on you. So, usually for me, it's a necessity.
And Cory, I'm going to go back to you. You mentioned toughness is one of the biggest traits that you're looking for in a player, as I think most coaches are looking for. But what are some other traits and intangibles and skill sets that you're looking for when you're recruiting a high school player today?
We really look for, I would say, grit, gratitude, and humility. Those are really big ones for us. So grit, man, we want tough kids. We want kids that have been through adversity. They get back up, they get knocked down, they get backed up. Like, you need that for junior college. So we look for gritty, tough kids. Gratitude, we feel like the most grateful people are the best people because they don't have entitlement. And I think that's really important at the junior college level. And then humility, we think the most humble people, they tend to be the most curious. And those people tend to have a growth mindset, and they tend to grow the fastest. So we really emphasize those three off the court traits for our guys when we're recruiting.
Mitch, what about you guys?
I would say overcoming adversity, because, it's going to be a little bit different, especially your 7 D1 transfers that come in. You're not at the Division I level anymore, or a high school kid that, thinks junior college is going to be easy. So being able to overcome adversity, or, get to that level and realize, hey, I'm not good enough yet. That's what we really look for. Kids that are able to look in the mirror and say, all right, I need to work on this. I need to make sure I get better here. One, not only just play this year, but to move on. And then I think on the court, I think motor is the biggest thing for me. If you're not competing, if you're not flying around, you're not going to play at the highest level anyway. So we really don't want you here. We want to get 75 to 80 possessions a game. We're not going to do that by going slow. So kids that want to compete and really want to, fight for their spot.
And Mitch, you're at the Division I level, and Cory, you've been there too. Like metrics wise, size wise, what's a D1 junior college point guard, on the girls' side? What does she look like?
Well, this year we started pretty big. We started a 5'9" or 5'10" point guard. A couple of our wings were about that 6 foot to 6'1" height, and then all our 4s and 5s are going to need to be pretty big. Now that's a panhandle necessity, because we're going to play Gulf Coast, who had 6'6" and 6'5" that they started at the same time. So, we've got to be big down here just to match up. But that, I think we're trying to get as close to those Division I or those heights that they're using in their metrics.
Yeah, and Cory, you guys at the guys' side of the D2 level, and even at the Division I level, what does that look like at your level on the guys' side?
Yeah, for us, if you're under 6 foot, you better have something special. You better be a lead at something to get to the next level. And so, we took a 5'9" point guard this year in our recruiting class and might be the best passer in the state. Like, he has elite vision, and that's going to give him an opportunity, going to give him a chance. So if you're under 6 foot, man, you better do something really, really special. It's going to stand out to that coach, and they need to see how you're going to help them win. So for us, just with how we play, we really focus on length. Like we need plus wingspans. Like we can get away. We were small this year. We started 6'5" at the 5, but we were okay because just with our scheme and our length, we really look for that +3, +4 wingspans, and that really fits our scheme and philosophy. So for us, we can get away with a little bit less height, but at that guard position, yeah, man, we need big, strong guards that can handle the physicality with how we guard and how we defend.
Oh, guard you're talking about is also super quick, so he's
That
pretty darn
helps.
quick.
That
Yeah.
helps. Unselfish. That helps.
Yeah.
Mitch, both of you brought up adversity. So I want to know, Mitch, when you're looking at a high school kid, if they come from a non-winning program, obviously everybody wants a winner, but if you've got that kid that keeps showing up day after day and their team, they just don't have it. Their teammates, they don't have any talent around them. Where does that kid fit in when it comes to adversity?
Well, I feel like we've recruited two sides of that question. We've recruited the kid that is probably the best player on a really bad team, that is trying to carry their team, is positive with their team. They're trying to carry the load, but they're trying to do it the right way. They're trying to play winning basketball, and they're keeping their teams in games they probably shouldn't be in. And then we've seen the flip side of that, where a kid's really good on a bad team and is really harsh to her teammates, or the score is getting out of hand, or she makes a bad play and she's walking back on defense. Those are the two types of kids I usually see in those situations. And it doesn't take long watching film, which side of the coin they're going to be on there. We want the kid on the right side.
Right. Cory, same to you. You're nodding your head.
Yeah, winning's a skill. It really is. So with this recruiting class, we didn't take anybody their senior season that had a losing record. So every case is unique. There's certain things, but I tell guys all the time, man, every bad team has a leading scorer. So that's where Coach was talking about earlier. Efficiency is really, really important for us. Are they playing the right way? So if it's someone that's in a tough situation like that, we do a ton of homework to see, are they going to fit our culture? Are they going to buy in and play winning basketball? Because it's a skill. So many kids that they don't care about winning now. They care about them first. And so we really emphasize winning with us, guys that have made runs in the state tournament. But this year we didn't take one, and just kind of the way it worked out.
Cory, when does the recruiting process start for your program? And let's just take like the 2027 class. Like, when will you start targeting 27s?
It's a little different on the men's side because they all think that they're going Division I, and they're going overseas. So for us, we got to let reality sink in a little bit, to be honest. And like Coach said earlier, I'm very transparent with guys. No one grew up with a junior college poster on their bedroom wall. Like, I get that. And so I'm completely okay with that. And so for us, we start building relationships early. We're building our recruiting board. We're evaluating, but they don't get serious about us till their senior season. And so that's when we really get heavy. But prior to that, they still think that there's other options going on. And I'm completely okay with that. Like, shoot for the stars, try to get that Division I level. And if it doesn't work out, hey, we're here to have a conversation. So senior year is when we get serious with them.
Gotcha. Great. And Mitch, how's it on the girls' side for you guys?
Yeah, probably the same thing. I mean, we're waiting until after that live period in the summer. They go through all their tournaments. They don't get any phone calls. And then, they're more inclined to reply to a text or a phone call by then, and usually their coaches know too. Like, hey, she didn't pick up any interest this weekend. The school that came to watch her didn't like her. And then they'll kind of, take a step toward us, around that time in August and July.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is one that just came to me while we were talking. You guys are both in like great climates for kids. Do you have, Mitch, we'll start with you. Do you have incentives to only recruit Florida kids? Or is there, certain preferential scholarships or things like that in the state of Florida to keep them in-house, if you will?
Not so much. I mean, they want us to recruit Florida, and we do. It's a great place to recruit from. So I mean, it's really, we're going to try and get those kids early because they're close. We can go watch them, but they really don't make us do that here. They've had a history of a lot of international players here, which we're 2, 3. Next year we might have 4 or 5. So nothing crazy in terms of that. But we love to keep those kids in state, and the teams that we're playing are keeping them in state. So you're still able to do that in Florida. Some of the other places I've been where we actually had rules that you had to have X amount of in-state kids, it's difficult. Especially if you don't have that brand name in state. And where I was at, we didn't have that brand name, so it's tough.
Gotcha. Cory, same question to you.
We're playing by a different set of rules. Where I'm at. And so what I mean by that, our county Well, first, we don't have housing. We don't have dorms. So we're a commuter campus. So we really emphasize, obviously, Phoenix is large enough. There's a lot of talent here. We try to keep it home. But I can't scholarship out of state kids. And so if they're out of state, they're international, they got to pay $10,000 in tuition on top of their housing. So we really have to emphasize the Phoenix market and keeping kids home to try to maximize. And I don't have full scholarships. You know, I get the equivalent of a third of their tuition that I can give them from an athletic standpoint. So there's a lot of, we're playing the salary cap game a little bit. And so we're trying to stretch our money. And so we really maximize the Phoenix market. And all of our kids, all but one this year, our kids are from Phoenix. So we really hammer that.
I just asked because every state is kind of unique. I'm in Missouri, and there's a program here called the A+ program. And if a kid qualifies for it, they get free junior college tuition and books paid for. If they're an athlete, even better, because then that coach doesn't have to use anything on that kid. So I know that's and it varies by state to state and region and all that stuff. So I appreciate you guys sharing that of how you guys go about it in your individual states.
When you look back at all the kids you coach at the junior college level, I think this equates to every level, but we're gonna keep it junior college tonight. What has separated the players who have succeeded at the JUCO level from those who didn't?
You know, for JUCO, it's a dog eat dog world. Like everybody's trying to get out. Like for the most part, you're not going to junior college for your career to end there. You're trying to move on. And so for us, I feel like the separator, and this is probably at all levels, honestly, but the kids that don't make it, they're worried about themselves, trying to get their own stats, and they're too busy showing coaches what they can't do or what they're not very good at. For the guys that get out, they show what they're really good at. Like they focus, be great at what you're good at, and that's what gets them out. They're worried about winning. They're worried about the right things. But I found in my career, that's what separates the guys that make it and the guys that don't at this level.
Yeah. Hey, question to you. What's been a separator from your eyes?
Well, I mean, like he said, you know, kids that are wanting to do the right things. You know, if you're creating those daily habits and you're doing the right thing day to day, you know, it's gonna show results on Wednesdays and Saturdays when we play. Now, if we win, you know, that's always the big indicator of, you know, how well we're doing, how the recruiting ends up. You know, so the kids that aren't able to adapt, the kids that aren't able to come in and understand that the workload is going to be very similar to Division I, Division II. You know, when they're not ready for that, when they don't want to put the work in, one of the things I call them on my team is Instagram hoopers, right? Kids that want to post a picture with their jersey on, they want to have the media day. They're so excited for media day, but you can't get them in the gym to shoot on the gun. You know, those types of kids, they never end up making it. You know, they post their IG stuff and then they don't get in the gym and then they show up on game day and they don't look very good. You know, so I think those kids that really don't buy into the daily grind here, they think they can just show up and play junior college basketball, they never make it. You know, the ones that have the right mindset, they know that they've got to get out here and compete. You know, those kids always do a great job and move on to the level they deserve.
That's great. That's great feedback. Great.
Mitch, I'm going to stay with you. And Steve and I both coached at the 4-year level, whether it's high school and or college. And one of the quotes is always, the best thing about freshmen is to become sophomores. How much do kids, especially, you know, coming to junior college level with the opportunity to potentially play more as a freshman, how much is that leap from year 1 to year 2 at the JUCO level, Mitch?
Well, you're just talking in terms of their development?
Yeah, well, development on the court, off the court, you know, just the whole package of the kids. You know, we just talked about kids that are successful, but how much is that leap of from year 1 to year 2?
Well, I mean, I just think back to when I even played. You know, your jump from freshman to sophomore year is way bigger than any other year. You know, and here, you know, it's a maturity thing. It's a mindset that they changes for them. And I think the biggest piece is their bodies. You know, they're in a constant strength and conditioning program. They're working out all year, barely taking any time off. You know, they're still eating because they've got their meal plans and things like that. So just the way that especially women, you know, the way their bodies change from 18, 19 to 20. You know, you start to see their shoulders rounding out and, you know, getting a little leaner. You know, I think that's the biggest thing we see from our freshman to sophomore year with our kids. And then, you know, the mental side of it, you know, things kind of slow down for them. The game isn't as quick. Their decision making gets a little bit better. So, you know, like Coach said earlier, if we're not getting reps, if we're not getting film, we're not growing. So, you know, I think that's the biggest piece. And at the JUCO level, you're going to get a lot of reps.
Cory, same to you, that jump from year 1 to year 2.
It's huge. Last year we had 11 freshmen. And so it was a lot of guys going through it for the first time. And so not only is it the physical maturity, but just the mental and emotional maturity that they have. They've been through it now. And so in a daily lifting program, a lot of them haven't had that consistency in high school. They're in individual workouts and the growth of study hall every day. They're getting grade checked every week. Just that type of thing where they get to grow as a person and become a little more independent. It's huge. And then you just see those jumps when they come back their sophomore year. You see the change mentally and physically for them.
I'm glad you brought up mental, because we've talked about many times on this show, like they come in, they have to learn a whole new language. Whatever your language is, Cory, is different than Mitch. Like they don't know any of that stuff. You've got some kids who come in who've played zone their whole life, have never played a possession of man. Mitch, so why are you laughing?
That's my biggest pet peeve.
But
I just can't stand watching it on film when you're recruiting them. It just really doesn't help you judge anything.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, where they have to learn a whole new language, new terminology, the way that you play. And so I'm glad you guys were able to articulate that jump from year 1 to year 2.
Basketball players, are you grinding in the gym but struggling to get noticed by college coaches? Your talent deserves the right exposure, and that's where Net Results Recruiting comes in. Whether you're in high school, junior college, or prep school, we help you connect with college programs, get you promoted to college coaches, and receive expert guidance throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get exposure, get guidance, get results. Let our team find your team. Visit netresultsrecruiting.com today and take the next step towards your college basketball dream.